Hello, everyone, and welcome again to the Unfound Podcast Channel on YouTube. I'm, of course, Unfound's host, Ed Denzel. Before I get into this map analysis for the disappearance of James Liedtka, please consider subscribing to this channel. Please like this video, and if you'd like a little bit more, why don't you hit the join button below, and of course right there at the bottom of the screen you can see, if you'd like to support Unfound that way, patreon.com/Unfound Podcast. So this is a map analysis for the disappearance of James Liedtka. This is an episode that came out on May 24th of 2024. So what you're looking at is where James was that night in the early morning hours of November 4th of 2018. Right here, if you see the cursor here, called the Pickle, and I will zoom in on that area right here. And I'm just going to leave it not a satellite picture, but just a drawing, animation, or whatever you want to call it, instead of going to an actual satellite photo. I think everything is just a little easier to see. But this is where he was, right here. He was actually to a variety of areas of locations of establishments in this downtown area of Eau Claire. But as far as anybody can tell, this is where he last was. The story is that he tried to get into the Pickle, and allegedly bouncers would not let him in because they said he was too drunk. There's no video of this. I guess they're just going by the bouncer's word. You can judge that for yourself. There is then the belief that James was probably the best idea anybody, I guess, has at this point, is that James might have been trying to walk home. Remind you of something that maybe gets a little confusing in this disappearance. He did not start his day in Eau Claire. He started his day in a city called Menominee, which is where his apartment was. He was going to school there, which is in a totally different city. And then he drove to Chippewa Falls, which is where we got on the party bus. And then the party bus took everybody to the location, this area that we're looking at in Eau Claire. But conveniently, he did own a house in Eau Claire, and that is where his sister, along with Mai, lived, and I'm going to show you that right now. This is where these blue dots are going. To remind you here on Google, blue dots mean walking. If it were a solid blue line like this, that would mean by car, whereas this is walking. So you can see the home that he owned. I'm not sure if it's still in his name today, 6 years later, but that is the home he owned at 3457 McIver Street. You can see right down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. Google says that it would take 52 minutes for the average person to walk that distance. That's about what I figure. What you should know, that when I am thinking about disappearances and how far people can walk, I usually figure it out to be about 3 miles an hour, and that works out here. So 52 minutes, 2.3 miles, it kind of works out to think about it at that rate of walking miles per hour. Now, of course, James might have been drunk. Of course, Sarah says that he wasn't that drunk. Don't know. Of course, if he was drunk, my guess it would take him a lot longer to walk that distance, especially maybe he had to stop and do whatever. But this is most likely the route he would have taken. This is the most direct route from the Pickle to his house. And you can see this is a city area. We might think of this no different than we think about the disappearance of Bowman, who somehow did manage to disappear, at least for a year and a half, in Santa Monica, one of the most urbanized areas in the United States. So I'm not saying that I believe James is dead, but I think we have to be open to the idea if somehow he did die. Doesn't mean that he went into the river, and we'll look at the river here in a moment. Doesn't necessarily mean that he died in water. I, of course, hope that he's alive. But it's a very urbanized area. It's a walk that's almost would have taken almost an hour. Who knows what he could have run into during that time? What also caught my attention in the interview with Valerie is that she doesn't believe he made this walk very often. It's also then adds a complication to all this. He might have, even though he had a home in this city, maybe he had driven from the area of the pickle to his house, but had not walked it, especially at night. Something to think about. So we go down here, and the most distressing part, we all know this. You don't need to be a missing persons expert of 7.5 years covering 330 disappearances to know this. Of course, most disconcerting is that this area of his walk right here, this is actually a walking bridge. This is actually, as you can see, University of Wisconsin at Eau Claire. That is not the school that he was going to, so please don't be confused. But he was going to school in a totally different city. So he would have had to have gone over this walking bridge, or he would have had to have gone over the Chippewa River one way or another to get to his house, if that is what he was planning to do. And as I stated in the summation, although it did not come up in the interview, Valerie and I did talk in a prior conversation about a young man who went missing in the water in Eau Claire, was found 30 miles downriver. Very deceased, very sad. So this is something that we have to keep in mind. Now, what catches my attention, as is usually the case, I look at the river around there, and you can see these islands, you got these bends. This shows that the water at times does not move that fast. You see things like that. That just makes it more likely that if he did go into the water, did not survive this. It doesn't mean that he had to have gone 30 miles downriver. Certainly not. I've heard that the water was a lot higher than usual at the time. That would add to the idea that maybe he could have been taken far downriver, but there's no guarantee of that. None at all. So we look at this area, and there are some different possibilities of what could have happened. And it very well could be foul play. No evidence of that. The other strange thing, something to think about regarding James's disappearance, is that if he did choose this way to go, which would be to the east, over this direction, his phone actually pinged over here to the west of the pickle. Could this be some sort of quirk of the cell phone system? Absolutely. And you should know that, especially in downtown areas, when a particular tower gets jammed, too many signals are going off of it, automatically computers will send signals to other nearby towers. So it is possible that this area, this downtown area, all these people packed into this very small area, there may have well been a cell phone tower right here in the pickle, the Owen Park, Lake Street area. But if it was jammed up, it was getting overloaded. Signals would be diverted to other towers, and it very well could be that is why this ping was off this tower down here, not one over here. Very possible, and that happens all the time. It has nothing to do with disappearances. That's just how the cell phone system in the United States works. So there you go. This is just presumably, James, at least to nobody's knowledge, said that he was going to be walking to his house. Makes a lot of sense. Wasn't going to go home on the party bus. Makes a lot of sense. Was he trying to get there and didn't make it? There's no indications that he ever did make it home that early morning. So there you go. Thank you for watching. I hope you're enjoying this new way of doing these maps using StreamYard. I know I'm enjoying it. And please give this video a thumbs up. And please join this channel, subscribe to this channel, hit the join button below if you'd like to do that. And I'll talk to you again very soon.